Polite and smart and punctual, it once was good to be. You answered for your actions, and a woman was a she. You'd stand up for your people, if needs be, even fight. But now, if you uphold such values, then you are far right. Oh, we're all far right now, we're all far right now. Peterson, Rogan, Shapiro, E-I-E-I-E-I-O. We worship Mussolini, his portrait's in the loft. Must save Twitter, Heil Hitler, we're all far right now. Oh, you say you're in the middle, a moderate individual, a Gladstonian liberal. You once laughed at Donald Trump, you're probably a fascist too. There once was a great speaker called Martin Luther King. Said character's what matters, not the colour of your skin. But conduct doesn't count now, just your identity. If you should ever question this, you're racist, obviously. Oh, we're all racist now, we're all racist now. Off to the gallows we must go, E-I-E-I-E-I-O. Worse than Winston Churchill, worse than Enoch Powell, Ku Klux Klan and Jimmy Fallon, we're all racist now. Oh, the countryside is racist, dogs and cats are racist, eating meat is racist, Black Lives Matter's even racist. Do you know what's also racist? You. Found out I am dyslexic, I thought I was just thick. My son, he is dyspraxic, I'd presumed he was a dick. My mother is bulimic, my mate's got OCD. My girlfriend is bipolar, that gives me anxiety. Oh, we're all mental now, we're all mental now. Off to the madhouse we must go, la 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 la. Nutty as a fruitcake, demented and deranged, cuckoo, psycho, wacko, loco. We're all mental now. Oh my, what is coming next? What is coming next? What is coming next? Oh my, what is coming next? We're probably all pedos too. Dirty little pedo hanging round the Lido in your little speedos. Far right.
Checkpoint 1, secured. Checkpoint 2, secured. Checkpoint 3. Checkpoint 3 secured. All hands secured. Opening bunker.
Aha, fooled you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. I regretfully have to say this will be the last Wednesday Night Live, maybe ever, because I'm moving it to Thursday. So I'm moving it to Thursday because it just made sense to me. These Wednesdays are a little bit tough, and I wanted to make sure that that I gave my best and I put out, my best effort. And right now on Wednesdays, it's been hard to do that. So it is what it is. But I just wanted to say that up front, so in case anybody does check it out and doesn't watch the entire broadcast, that they still know, if they're wondering why I'm not on anymore, that they figure that out. That the reason for it is that I moved to Thursdays. So I hope that is better for you folks. I hope that it will get a better response on Thursdays. It's just Wednesday for me is so insane. So a lot of stuff has been happening. I'm having issues with the chat right now, though. So give me one sec. I want to see if I can get this functioning properly. There we go. Now it's just beneath. That's better. All right. So there we go. So all right, we got Kelly Flett in Ontario, Canada. Welcome aboard. I don't know if everybody got a chance to see that initial that initial little comedy reel that I put on there. And unfortunately, it's comedy, but it's not pure comedy because, like all comedy, it's good because it's true, or at least there's an element of truth to it. And if you didn't see it, I invite you to go back and check it out afterwards. But right now, all it was saying was it was a parody on saying we're all far right now, and the reality is we kind of are, right? And I think, I thought about that. Elon Musk reposted that. And I watched it and I was like, you know what, this is funny, but it's also true, right? If you think about it, there's no more right and left. And I always say this as well: Democrats, Republicans, two wings, same bird, they all hate you, right? And that's very true. But at the same time, there are, general opinions and philosophies on the right and the left. And today, the left has really gone straight Marxist. I mean, they've really gone all in Marxist, which leaves all the Democrat voters that were not always, that aren't down with Marxism. Like they just wanted, they may like this issue or that issue or whatever, but they're not Marxists. So the Marxist group is trying to pull those people with them. And for a long time, they stayed on board. But now that they're seeing it's becoming, we're getting into these advanced stages now, and they're seeing that it's pure lunacy. And as a result of that, it's just falling apart. And now, like your Kennedy Democrats, like for those in the US, and I would argue probably in Canada as well, maybe Kelly can let us know. The left used to be champions of free speech, right? Like when I grew up, the left was, it was all about being able to say what you want to say. And of course, at that time, right, because this subversion had been going on, was still going on at that time. At that time, that's what the Marxists needed everybody to stand for, because they were saying some pretty outrageous and disgusting stuff, and they wanted to defend that. But now that we're in these more advanced stages of the subversion, and if you're confused by what I mean when I say the subversion, I would refer you over to you can actually see it on YouTube. Yuri Bezmenov, you can watch that video. But there's better, more in depth stuff on Epic Times. They have some great CCP documentaries and whatnot about and Soviet documentaries about the process of how we got to where we are and why it wasn't an accident. And most of the stuff that we know, or at least that we believed or said, was not necessarily true. And some of it was, but much of it was not. I think all of the stuff that today's youth believe in is simply untrue. Much of the stuff, because it just advances, right? Like they got this young generation from the ground up. I mean, they were just going. And even Gen X was complicit as we sat there with our kids in school being like, I don't care what anybody does. I don't care. Like, we need to care what people do. When it affects our kids and when it affects things like that, we need to care. Like, we need to care that that there's this pedophilia problem, the sex trafficking problem. We've got the indoctrination and grooming in schools, sexualizing children. We need to care. Like, it's not okay. And I think everyone gets that now. But we grew up, and many of us raised our kids thinking, just accept everyone because it sounds right? And you should. I'm not saying don't accept people. I'm just saying there's you can't be accepting like child porn in middle schools. Like there's lines to what we accept and what we don't accept. And there's morality, right? Morality that atheists generally do not share. And so when I say atheists, to bring God into it, I do believe that it's impossible to have a morality without a standard. It's impossible. Setting your own standard is self-worship. That's all it is. You're just putting yourself as the deity and saying, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to set these standards of morality. Oh, but I need to do this, so I'm going to move them over here, right? But I need to get that done. All right, I'm going to move my morality standards over there. And sure enough, with enough coaxing and convincing, those morals will disappear altogether. Whereas, whatever your faith, there are set guidelines for morals that don't change with the wind. And that matters, right? But as this subversion has gone on, we no longer have conservatives. Everybody, if you listen to the news, if you listen to pundits, if anything media, any consumed media, right? Everything on social media, everywhere you go, you're getting this feel that everybody who has a sane point of view is a far right radical. And this is, if you're not aware, a basic tactic from the Saul Alinsky Rules for Radicals book, and it's a very successful tactic. And it really is. That is kind of the Bible outside of the Satanic Bible. That is kind of the Bible of the left. I mean, that's if you really want to understand the strategy. He wrote this in the 70s. If you want to really understand the strategy of the left, that is a great read. It's a frustrating read. You will read it and disagree with almost every page, but it will give you insight into how they think. It'll give you insight into how their plans are structured, what they look to accomplish, how they look to accomplish it. Right? There are things in there that you will read that, and it will be, knowing that it's from the 70s, you will realize that it's a book that's like a prophecy. Of course, it's not a prophecy because it was all planned and organized, but looking at where we are today, you can see that following his program, they have been very successful. And now, we have so many generations who are miseducated all over the place. I mean, this is why I made this shirt, which is available on my website, by the way, thepatriotthinktank.com. You will find a link to the Etsy store there up top. And, make civics great again, right? Because they removed it. They removed it from class because they don't want us. Social studies, if any teacher tries to tell you social studies is the same thing as civics, they're lying. Maybe not intentionally. They might actually believe that because that's what they were taught in their university as they were getting their credentials. It is not the same thing. It is vastly different. Just like a constitutional republic is vastly different than a democracy. Not kind of like one. It's not sort of like one. It's not almost the same thing. It is nothing like one, right? But that's not what we were taught. I grew up my whole life not nonchalantly calling this a democracy. Now, I was, not my whole life, right? Because it's been years now since I've been on the constitutional republic thing. But for a good portion of my certainly through college and all of that, I certainly, called this nation a democracy. Once I finally learned, which I had to educate myself, like I had to go to actual founder materials and listen to quotes and really get a sense for what the founders' intentions were, and really, I mean, I knew it was a republic technically. What I didn't know was the difference. What I didn't know, like I was in that camp of it's kind of the same thing, like, and if you Google it now, you'll even get Democratic Republic, which isn't even a thing. That's one of those lipstick on a pig moves where like they try to add, republic at the end of democracy to make it sound better. But it's not. It's not better. So, it is what it is. But Kelly over on Facebook said they've been lying, brainwashing, programming, and chipping away for decades. They got bold and decided to speed up the agenda. Hated and expect the citizens speaking up and defending themselves and families, and now they need silence. They need to silence the truths. Yeah, and that's very true. That's very true. They need to, like, they're at a point now, and this is where our Constitution comes in, right? Like they're training young minds to believe everybody is anyone who's sane, anyone who speaks of Jesus, anybody who speaks of morality, anybody who dares suggest that abstinence be a way forward, it is a far right. Now the term is Christian nationalist. You're going to start, if you haven't already, you're going to start hearing that term used all the time, Christian nationalist, which, if you look at the term itself, a Christian who loves their nation. I mean, that's really what it is. But what they're trying to portray are like the West Baptist Church or whatever, Baptist Church, and like the loons, right? Of which no Christian even knows. I don't even know anyone who knows someone that's wacko like that. But that's what all of a sudden, just like we're all far right radicals, we're all going to be far right Christian nationalists. And this narrative gets pushed and it gets put in front of people, in particular kids and young minds, who really don't know better. And it's not an insult, they're just young. And if you're like 20 something, you're in some prestigious school, you think, wow, this professor, this is a professor from, Columbia or from, Harvard, and, he talks with his teeth closed. He must be smart, right? Like those people, when you get approached by people like that in your everyday curriculum and they're pumping this kind of messaging, it's easy to get sucked up in that. It's easy because it's confirming everything that they pumped into your head in high school. And I do know quite a few teachers who will say we're not all like that, but you know what? They all know someone who is. And as the younger the teacher that comes into a school, the more like this they are. And I will say, even for the well-intentioned and solid teachers that are out there, like you, like the rest of us, came up through these education systems that have been misguiding us and sending us in the wrong direction. Why? Because the entire goal is to make everyone question everything. And I don't mean that in a good way. I don't mean that like, yeah, you should question everything, research, get your sources and whatever. That's not what I mean. What I mean is they want you to question everything sane. So, perfect example, right? Where think about where you get your media from today. Think about that, right? Like, where does it come from? You can say, I don't watch Fox News, which most people don't anymore. That's CNN, whatever. Most people don't anymore. So where does it come from? Well, it comes from the internet for the most part. And, we all try to find sources out there. Some people love, someone like Candace Owens. Some people might love, Ben Shapiro or, any of these guys, Russell Brand or, forgetting the other guy's coming to mind's name, but anyway, you may be into one of those folks and be like, and it's not bad. I mean, they're trying to do their best, but they're definitely spinning. They're definitely like the information we consume, no matter where we consume it from, is being spun, right? One way or the other. Now you could argue, oh well, Candace Owens spins in the right direction. Okay, if you feel that's the right direction, that's fine. I generally do when I hear her, but she does go off the rails a few times. She has gone off the rails a few times to my liking, as far as just some kind of crackpot sort of stuff, giving like Hamas people like large platforms to go and preach and things like that stuff. I'm not okay with, but like. That's fine though. Maybe you are. Like in the end, you're going to go to whatever sources you want. I'm going to recommend one to you right now, all right? Especially for the times that we're in, because the CCP is behind virtually everything that is going on right now. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to the CCP and it comes to legitimate investigative reporting on the CCP, there is no close second to the Epoch Times. There is no close second. These folks have more people and more sources inside China than any other news organization has sources, period. It's amazing to me. I'll give you an example. All right, now I was already vetting the Epoch Times before COVID happened. And when COVID did happen, it was April 2020 that they put out a full documentary. All right, Joshua Phillip put out a full documentary on the Wuhan lab leak in well-sourced everything, all right? And we had time on our hands back then. I went in and checked every source he provided, and I was like, this dude is onto it. He's onto it. And the fact that he went into Bat Lady, he went into the lab leak, how it happened, et cetera, how China reacted to it, the whole nine, the narratives, the WHO, broke down everything. Not even a month after we just first we were still waiting for a few weeks to flatten the curve. Now, this dude's popping off this documentary, got ripped off YouTube. I ripped it though, because I'm smart like that now. Like when I see something that's factual on YouTube, I know to rip that before they get a chance to friggin', I don't know if I got it from YouTube, but I got a copy of it that I kept on a hard drive because it was important information and I knew they'd get removed. They put it back on since because obviously it was almost a year later that they started acknowledging that was a thing. But this is, this CCP thing, it's serious. It's serious. And honestly, Epic TV, the documentaries there are unparalleled. They're unmatched. Their documentaries are so in-depth when it comes to the CCP. The sources they use, so in-depth when it comes to the CCP. Like they just absolutely... The CCP, they started, just so you know, in China, and then because they weren't allowed to report the things that they were reporting on. They fled to the United States, set up shop in Manhattan, but they kept a shop in China. And that shop is constantly under attack by the CCP to this day. And they just destroy all their stuff, and they got to reopen somewhere else. And that cat and mouse game just goes on. But there are people absolutely risking their lives in China right now trying to get word out of what's going on, because it is not easy. It is not easy. If we were to just believe everything that comes out on China, it would be, we would think this is this technologically super advanced economy with all, like, we wouldn't know that their economy is crushed, and that their real estate market, they all these freaking buildings that just the whole market busted. They've got freaking issues among issues. They can't innovate anything. All they do is steal from other nations. Like anytime you see one of those commercials, like, the Chinese, in China, they have developed a new blah, 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 right? Stolen. I don't know you don't know who they stole it from, because you're not following it, but stolen. Communist countries don't innovate anything. All of that tech is stolen. All of it. They got this new EV thing coming up with these little EV cars. Everyone's like, oh, it's a threat to Tesla. No, it's not. Because what's a threat to Tesla is the fact that there's probably a mole working in the company, multiple, stealing information and sending it back. That's the way it goes. Bob Dorman over at Facebook. Facebook moving with the comments today. Good evening. Popping in a little late. That's all right. I started a little late, Bob, so we're good. I made the announcement I'm going to be moving them to Thursdays because the Wednesdays have just become too hectic for me to race home and try and do this at a time that's palatable for both East Coast and West Coast, and not even counting, right, like other countries. We got followers in the UK and New Zealand, but those guys they're used to trying to get U.S. media, and knowing the difference. But I was never into politics, never paid attention, never knew what any of the organizations were, never heard of them. WF Bilderberg, etc. Yeah, I hear you. A lot of people are with you. Secret societies. When the convoy went to Ottawa, I started paying attention, and in the last 2 years, I learned so much and still have lots to learn. Yeah, it's a mouthful. What I would tell you, Kelly, is head over, like I said, to the Epic Times. Because and just it right now they're running some I mean, I'm not sponsoring Epic Times. I'm just telling you they're an amazing source. Because all their documentaries, where you go through their documentaries, like if you're that person like yourself who are trying to learn and catch up as to just how mind screwed we've been for so long. Like much of the stuff, like the stuff that you learn in there about the CCP, the Soviet Union, how they were subverting, how they infiltrated our universities. There was a point back in the 60s, I want to say it's the 60s, might have been the late 50s, where they actually had a commission set up to look at this. And they ended up disregarding it, saying, oh, there were just 3,000 of these, so-called revolutionary people in the universities. But like, what they were trying to explain in the documentary is like that 3,000, and what they were trying to explain at the time is that 3,000 being present at that time, because there were like a million some odd, university professors in the country. And they're saying, but that 3,000, each one of them is teaching classes of 30, 40 people. Some of these universities just like 150 people. They don't have to radicalize the whole 150, but the reality of the matter is, out of those large classrooms, there are multiple people who are going to end up teaching. And by creating a generation like the hippies, they went ahead, it's not that people that were going after teaching were the radicals. It's that the radicals were identified. Once they were subverted, they were identified as being all in for the cause. And then those people were artificially moved up the ranks. And that went on everywhere. That went on in universities. That went on in politics. That went on in and in politics, it's not so much did you get elected or didn't you. It's that once you're in, like they'll identify that Democrat who actually is a Marxist, and that person will get on the better committees. That person will get like that's kind of how it evolved. Hollywood, same thing. People that get the big producer jobs, actors that get the big roles. All these people are handpicked because they were already pre-qualified as having bought in to the ideology. And even if they don't think themselves to be Marxists, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they buy into everything they need them to. They're buying in to the race war. They're buying into all the identity politics, etc. So that's really what it was. And Rebecca Swisher on Facebook, thank God for President Trump outing them all. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I just realized though? Oh my goodness. Lady Murren, I see you out there, and I did not pop out the chat for YouTube, and I don't know if YouTube, we may not even have gotten a comment, but yeah, I don't think I even did. YouTube, I don't even know why I still stream there, but for Lady Murren, I see you over on Rumble, and I apologize. I needed to like pop out the chat in order for those to become postable for me, and I didn't do that. So as a result, but let me see what Lady Murren is saying here. So just got home from the cause meeting. Yep. Oh, by the way, in a cause, on a cause note, Hawaii passed committee last week. So more positive news on the cause front. Things are going very well right now for cause. I want to say every single committee that it's been brought in front of has passed it through. There might be one that didn't. I know South Dakota shot it down. They were the only one. But then there are another 18 out there, and everyone that got in front of a committee made it through, which was fantastic. Yeah, and that was something that really got me excited, because and here's Lady Murren. Now I got it. Now I'm able to highlight. So sorry about that to the folks over on Rumble. I was not able to highlight chats there for a moment. But yeah, so big news with Hawaii. Keep your ears open. Tune in here. I will definitely keep you updated on what's going on. This is the solution, folks. We all know it. Anyone who understands it knows it. And then Rebecca, I was reading that comment. Thank God for President Trump outing them all. Yes, you know what? President Trump, I think his greatest contribution, to be honest with you, he really didn't pass much legislation, right? His greatest contribution to me was the outing of all of these people. The fact that he wasn't in the club caused these. Yeah, they weren't going to pass legislation. Although he did get some prison reform done, which I thought was very productive. His tax cut was I don't want to talk about that, but he did get some things done. But really, the biggest thing that he got done was outing these people. That's my opinion. So, in the end, when I think about, what he contributed with, and China too, I mean, he didn't do much to China. The 25% tariff was big, but other than that, Xi Jinping is kind of, he rolled right off of that and just moved on. Bigger things need to happen in order to really deal with China. We have to really, number one, just cut to the chase. No, just let any company making products that are vital to our infrastructure, any company like that right now needs to be tax free. They need to operate tax free, and just get them back in the States, because it's more important that they be here than it is that they pay whatever. The government's just going to piss that money away anyway. It's important that those companies be here, right? Companies that make, silicon chips and all of this, that semiconductors, they all need to be here in the States. It is unacceptable that 90% of the world's semiconductors are made in Taiwan. That is not okay. That is a threat to our well-being. Mike Arnold, how are you, sir? Regional director over at CAUSE on the East Coast. Just got back from Bible study. Shared my video on X. Well, you didn't miss much, Mike. I started late today, so you're in good shape. I did announce that I'm probably going to be moving this to Thursday. I am curious to know if that works better for people, or if Wednesday was the sweet spot. I just can't do Wednesday anymore. It's just too much for me. My Wednesdays are incredibly hectic. It's like an office day, and then I gotta race out of the office to come home and finish what I gotta. It's just too nuts. Thursday's a much more passive day for me. So let me see this, and now we're talking across platforms. right? We got Lady Mern on Rumble. Give it a shout out to Mike over in on Facebook. This is how we roll, right? This is how we roll. Lady Mern, Thursday works for me. Good. It's good to hear because yeah, I gotta move it, man. It was driving me nuts, but DuckDuckGo. Yes, my favorite search engine. If you guys aren't familiar with DuckDuckGo, if you're looking up anything serious, you need to go to DuckDuckGo. Like if you're looking up any kind of information that maybe like if you check it out, like I don't know how many people have downloaded it, and I think most people that follow and most people that would follow me probably already probably already know that DuckDuckGo is the bomb. But it actually like it pops up all the times the site tries to track you. It like tells you. It's pretty awesome. But also the searches are unfiltered. So when you put in a search, you just get the results. You don't get Google's opinion or you know what the State Department feels should come up in the search. You just get your search. That's it. And it's an anonymous search. They're not selling you ads. They're not doing all that. Like, I mean, there's ads up, but they're not like, it's not like you talked about, you know, going fishing and all of a sudden a fishing rod ad comes up. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. So, and then, yeah, so from Rebecca over. So President Trump got a lot done considering his fight. Yeah, absolutely. Considering his fighting all the libtards and half what is it, half the so-called Republican Party, and who exactly knew how corrupt the government was until he got in office. Yeah, I'm not beating up Trump by saying when I say there wasn't much that he accomplished, I'm not beating him up for that. I think you know some of it was his trolling and things like that, but for the most part, yeah, the entire machine was against him. I mean, it was Republicans, Democrats, everybody wanted out of that. You know what I mean? Everybody wanted a piece of Trump, and they still do. They still do. And I think, you know, you're right. I don't think he knew how deep it was, and I think he learned that now. My concern for him is the people that he surrounds himself with. Because like his narcissism is kind of funny, and you know, sometimes it's like, oh man, I gotta explain this tweet, you know, and my friends are gonna, you know, whatever. But the thing about him is, you know, well, look, he's Trump, right? What are we gonna do? He's Trump. He's gonna say what he's got to say. He's gonna tweet what he wants to tweet. He's gonna, you know, gonna do his thing. My shirt says "Make civics great again." Underneath, it's "Social studies sucks." Hashtag social studies sucks. So that this is probably is my favorite shirt, even though I have. Just so everyone knows, thank you for the opportunity for a shameless plug. I did put out these new shirts, these 3 of them. The founders have my 6 by giving me Article 5, Make Civics Great Again. And now I'm forgetting what the other one was. It was, oh yeah, Focus on Solutions, Article 5. Yeah, that one was not as catchy as the other 2. But yeah, so that's what it says. You know, love the new shirts. I'm rocking them. I was rocking them in West Virginia. Went back to West Virginia again, hit up my property. My brother and I bought like 90 acres. We thought we were buying 69, but then we had it surveyed. And true to West Virginia form, the property hadn't been formally surveyed since like Abraham Lincoln. It was like not quite that far back, but it was in the 1800s. So, you know, we had it surveyed. We actually gained an extra 20 acres, which was cool. We're working on a hunting cabin there. We're building our bug out spot in our communication center where we can communicate with the rebels when the zombies come. That's where we're at. So we had some fun with that as well. You want a shirt that says "Don't be a doot-to-do." You know what? I should come out with that. I should let people, as I wear these shirts out. Like it ain't like I just wear them for the broadcast. I wear them everywhere. You know, my Yuri was right shirt. Like I wear that out. I have no problem. People ask me about it. You know, like people may say, "Who's Yuri?" Right? Or you know, ask me how to save America. Right? That shirt. And people be like, they'll jokingly come up and be like, "How do I save America?" And I'll start breaking it down for them. Like now they're on the hook. Now they're on the hook. I'll be in the middle of the grocery store having someone pull up the. But what's cool? The one cool thing about one of the T-shirts. This one right here, the founders have my 6 for giving me Article 5. That barcode is actually the petition. So, like, you could scan the shirt, and it'll take you right to the convention. So you could just tell someone while you're talking to them, here, just scan my shirt, and they scan it, takes them right to the petition. They can go ahead and sign the petition right there, which is awesome. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about, is the TikTok situation. So I don't know how engaged everybody's been with this, but between that and the bridge disaster, and they're kind of linked for me. And you're like, George, how does TikTok link to the bridge disaster? Well, I'll tell you why. Because both of them spark the element of misinformation that I was talking about earlier, in the sense that all of the subversion that has been done to us over the years, the fact that we don't trust anyone, the fact that we don't look, if you're on one side, you don't trust any of these organizations, the news organizations. You're on the other side, you don't trust any of these organizations. If you're on the right, you probably don't trust any organization. And the reality of the matter is, there's a lot of reason for that, and a lot of it's valid, but it carries over to the fact that, number one, we tend to think everything is a conspiracy. Number two, which is not true, right? There's a lot of conspiracy out there, but not everything. Like, bad stuff does just happen, right? And with that, I bring up, this bridge disaster. But then TikTok, in the same way, I am out there adamantly advocating for TikTok to be banned in the United States. And there are no bigger free speech advocates than myself. However, it's not a free speech issue. And this is what I mean when I say people just don't have the information. Like people sit there and they try to make false equivalencies with TikTok. Like, well, you say China's data mining the American population. Well, Facebook and YouTube and Google and everybody else is data mining us too. Yes, they are. They're doing it for money. They're doing it as a part of a business model that we understand. Okay, it's not, anyone who doesn't understand that when you get on Facebook or you get on, Twitter or wherever else, you are the product. You are the product. Things don't just come free, folks. Like when you're allowed to use a service that costs millions and millions and millions of dollars to maintain, when you're allowed to use that for free, someone's getting paid somewhere. So we know the motive. The motive is money. The CCP is a different animal. The CCP is a national enemy. There's no doubt. There's no arguing that. They're the most evil government possibly ever in the history of man. I can't think of one worse. I mean, they've matched Hitler tit for tat. They've got the concentration camps. They're freaking doing the experiments. They're organ harvesting from live humans, like herding humans to organ harvest. Like, you don't get more evil. You get the tens of thousands of Christians, the Uyghurs. I mean, the list just goes on. And they hate us. Okay, they've always hated us since their inception. Since before they even took over China, Mao Zedong is documented as saying, and this is where the 100-Year War comes from. He's documented as saying, I don't care if it takes 100 years. We're going to take down the United States. Like, this is it. This is the, like the Soviets are like, or they're not Soviets anymore. I'm dating myself. But the Russians are like child's play compared to what we've been dealing with. And it's not like the Russians stop with the misinformation and subversion and all that stuff. It's just that they're just a joke compared to the infiltration that China has gotten after the fall of the Soviet Union. I mean, that's just real talk. Is to get rid of Section 230. Yeah, you know what? I don't even want to do that. I just want the government, or like, I see it as two separate issues, right? Because I want there to be town halls, right? Like, it doesn't help me to punish, to punish them in that way where it makes the service no good. And now, because you get rid of 230 and now they're regulating everything. Now they have to regulate everything. So now, like, it's going to become unusable. So it's like, so we got to find a way in between. And the way is to completely remove government from this process. And, unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, the Supreme Court actually just made a crap decision recently that sort of extended some leeway for them to do this. And like, but again, when the courts do that, right? When the courts do that, that's where Article 5 comes. Like these are things that we can address. Okay, now, maybe not in this convention, although maybe it would fall under government overreach of power for sure. But the point is, like, it requires clarity, because if the Supreme Court has shown us anything, it's that they will take something and interpret the living daylights out of it until it looks nothing like what it was intended to be. You just got to look at the Commerce Clause for that. Like, they will absolutely, the Supreme Court, I don't care, we got a conservative Supreme Court. Like, these justices, Kavanaugh and freaking, I've said this a million times, Kavanaugh and Barrett are scary as hell. They're scary. Gorsuch, I love the guy to death. Gorsuch is cut right out of the Alito and Antonin Scalia and the Clarence Thomas cloth. Like, he's right there. And I use the example all the time of the mandates. I read through all their opinions, and like Kavanaugh and Barrett, they're the type that, like, so where is it? They're the type that look to this big constitution over here. They're not the type that look to the pocket constitution. Now, if you don't know what this big constitution, that's the annotated version that has all of the Supreme Court decisions in it from the past that were effective to the Constitution. So every bad interpretation, from the Commerce Clause to, you name it, is in there. And so when you read Amy Barrett and Kavanaugh's opinion on the COVID mandates, what you heard was, well, the legislature didn't specifically give OSHA authority to do what they did, and therefore, it can't stand. Well, Gorsuch looked at it the correct way. He picked up the small constitution and said, it doesn't freaking matter if they explicitly gave OSHA the authority to enforce those mandates. Congress doesn't have the power to give that power to OSHA. Like, you don't get to give that power to OSHA, then everybody directs their anger at OSHA, and the people who are actually accountable walk away scot-free. That needs to come. If they're going to try some crazy stuff like that, they need to be accountable for it. Gorsuch is the only one that got that right. The other two didn't. And it told me a lot about the way that they judge. Like, these are not they're constructionists to precedent, not to the Constitution. And there's a difference. And we're all beholden to these folks, right? How many things have come down to the Supreme Court? Right? How many things the Supreme Court's the final word. And then now we're all praying. Can you imagine if Hillary Clinton won the freaking presidency? They would be rewriting the entire Constitution right now. We cannot live like this. We need to correct this situation before it gets, because it's only a matter of time before the right combination of people leave the bench. Or, Clarence Thomas is old as hell. That dude's old as dirt. Alito ain't no young skippy chicken either. So, in the end, these two, who knows how long they have left. And who knows who's going to be president when they step down. That's what I'm saying. We don't want to leave. So when it comes to that and they make those bad decisions, then we step in, Article 5, we call a convention. I honestly believe the threat of a convention, maybe not the actual calling of one, but the threat of a convention is going to go a long way. And once we get this first convention called, right? If you don't know the topics, term limits, it's fiscal restraints and government overreach. If you don't know the topics, that's the topics. And the fact of the matter is, once we get this done, even if because I know we'll get term limits, that I know. But even if we don't get all the stuff we want, even if we only get this one, we don't get that one. I want the 16th and 17th Amendments overturned. I don't know that I don't know that 38 states, would ratify that, but we'll see. But the fact of the matter is, hopefully one day they will. But, it was never in the Constitution. Progressives got it added in, and it's been hell getting it out. But, we need to get it out. But the fact is, whatever gets passed, whatever doesn't, as soon as we get to a place where it's been called, the process is done, and the fear factor is over, we'll be threatening convention all the damn time. Oh, you guys don't want to, because it's going to fundamentally change the relationship between the federal government and the people. And this is why it's so damn powerful, because it's going to completely redesign the who's in charge, right? It's going to completely redesign it. And it's important that people understand that, because it was meant, our nation was not meant to be run by a president and Congress. It was meant to be run by state legislatures. It was meant to be that if you have a problem politically, that you take it to your local legislator. And that if enough people in different districts have the same problem and are taking it to their legislators, then action gets taken. The federal government has no place in education, nowhere. Nowhere. Has no place in work safety, has no place in anywhere that it's stuck its tentacles into. But yet here they are. And it's one bad Supreme Court decision after another, subtle as they may be, that allow these little usurpations and these little movements into our lives, where all of a sudden you just wake up one day and they're everywhere. They're freaking everywhere. And that's what we need to correct, right? That's what we need to correct. So my point, to go back to the TikTok bridge piece, people started giving me all that jazz about TikTok, like, oh, they don't understand the data mining piece. They don't understand the significance, like what big data is. And they don't understand how that can be weaponized. And so like you hear comments from people that are saying, like, so what if they know that you go ahead, follow me. I have a boring life. No, it's not you they're following. It's everyone. It's mass data. What they're doing is understanding how the population moves, not how you move. What they're doing is understanding what the population buys, not what you buy. That's what they're doing. And it's far deeper than that. It's far deeper than that. The reality of the matter is, it matters. And TikTok there's no way on earth, if, like, my kids don't have it on their phones, my wife doesn't have it, and they all used to. They don't have it now. I've never had it on my phone, because the reality is it's owned by the CCP. And how on earth could you be okay with your family being data mined by the CCP? I just don't understand how that becomes okay. It's not okay. And people need to understand that. And they need to educate themselves. They need to make civics great again. You need to understand, like, freedom of speech is not the issue here. If the nation's greatest enemy is trying to, first of all, the CCP is not covered, nor is ByteDance, by freedom of speech. They're a China-based company. They're not covered by freedom of speech, number one. Number two, it doesn't matter. Even if their branches here, and we say, okay, well, their branches here are covered. Okay, let's say that. But freedom of speech is not the issue. Data mining is. And the lunacy to think that it would be okay to allow them to data mine our citizens is just insane. The original Constitution is not like how they say our inflation rate. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, culminative. Yeah, I got you. There's foundation. The foundation is what it is. Right. It's not wishy-washy. It's not something people get to decide on. It's not something like, oh, that's like, the Constitution is clear. And the beauty of the Constitution to me is that they wrote it in so few pages by hand, and were able to get their point. No. I mean, if they were to write a Constitution today, it would be like 450,000 pages. Like, right? Like, they can't even put out a purchase order for toilet seats that isn't 15 pages. Like, it's crazy the way that it's changed today. But they were very curt to the point, right? But yet still, the Supreme Court finds ways to go in and friggin' and dig on it. And then, just to get separate on this bridge disaster. So now I talked about the TikTok side. The bridge disaster now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm seeing all these people posting stuff about how this was an attack. You're like, oh, how convenient. None of the cars were on the, cars were zooming by, but then there were none on the bridge when it hit. Like, and all this nonsense. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the way we've been subverted, we now believe everything is a conspiracy theory. And the fact of the matter is, the conspiracy theorists in general, is batting like 1,000 compared to mainstream media history, whatever. But like in the end, they also tend to go off the rails, in my opinion, sometimes, and this is one of them, right? And if you look, and I have the footage here, and you see now my brother was a ship cap. You see the lights just went out there, right? So I'm going to bring that back. Hold on. Bring it back. See, the lights are on the ship. Now, if you didn't know this, the lights went out. They lost power here. Now, this has been going on before this video clip began. All right, they've been losing and gaining power. They were losing power in the ship constantly. They're struggling to get it back on. They got it back on. Now you see that chug of smoke come out of the top. That, as my brother explained to me, who was a New York City ship captain, when you see that black smoke, that's them trying desperately to reverse gears and get out. But you see the lights went out again. They lost power again. Now they got power back on, but it's too late. Like at this point, it was too late. They're already headed right into it. This is not the Brooklyn Bridge. This bridge is made of steel only. There's no brick or anything like that holding this together. And this is what took it down. Once that barrier goes down, it's history. But this was and they were putting out Mayday calls, by the way, to explain this theory that the cars all got off. They knew this was coming. They had no power and no control of the ship. They were trying to warn people well in advance of hitting that bridge. It's not like someone just slipped at the wheel and oh shoot and then hit it. They were yelling at the bridge. They were yelling at all these folks, clear the bridge, block the roads, don't let people on, etc. They're trying to reverse gears. They're trying to do everything they can to try and stop that ship, and they could not do it. And it was a tragic accident, but it was not a conspiracy. And it's important for people. And as I understand it, as my brother was explaining it to me, it's not even the regular captain on a lot of those vessels that's actually piloting it at that point, because what happens when these international vessels and such come into U.S. ports, that will actually board the ship with captains and pilots that can actually they know that channel phenomenally and can guide the ship through much better. That they know all the short spots and shallow spots and things like that. So look, we should all just be grateful that there were not a ton of, it's a disaster that 6 people are unaccounted for, but on a disaster like that for only 6 people, you can't help but think of all the people that made it or didn't get killed because of some of the actions that were taken. Now they'll get through as to why the power was going out, if that was someone's fault, etc. But like, this disaster is not something for blame. Harbor captains, thank you, Lady Mern. Yeah, harbor captains are what they bring in for that. So it's not even like it was the same guy per se that was piloting the ship the whole way in. It was just a matter of a lot of bad circumstances and some unfortunate events. And I say unfortunate tongue in cheek because 6 people died, right? But in the end, like again, a much bigger disaster was indeed averted, and I'm happy to hear that. All right, so as I said earlier in the broadcast, I am going to be switching gears, and we're going to be ending Wednesday Night Lives. I know, cry it out, but we're going to be bringing it back to Thursday. So now all the chicks dig Thursday. That's the big night. That's where all the fun people are. Not that we're not fun, right? But we're all going to be even more fun Thursday night. So I hope that works better. It's going to be a nice little test too, because I'd like to see if maybe Wednesday night, maybe we could have got a bigger audience if we moved to Wednesday. Maybe I'm going to lose viewers. We'll find out. Either way, I'm not a money shill for any of these people. So there you go. Mern says ladies' night is Thursday night is ladies' night. There we go. All right. So Mern, I expect my female viewership then to go up. Right now, it's literally like 49.4 to 49.6. Like it's like right in that neck and neck. So we're gonna see how ladies' night goes. Maybe I'll run a promo. Free drink emojis. Bob says trust is key. The way things are going, there isn't any. Yeah, and that's by design, Bob, and that's why I keep going back to the CCP. It's just like we deal with in convention estates. Like it's all trust. Like they all think someone's gonna step in and hijack the whole thing, and it's all this guy's a shill for this guy and this one. Like nobody's able to determine what a good person is anymore. And we got to get away from that. We got to start thinking. We got to start closing out the media, focusing on our own values, and gather with like-minded people. And on that note, to gather, well, let me finish the comment. They stopped cars. There were no tugs guiding out of the port. A lot of weird stuff goes on in the dark. Yeah, exactly. But I like the idea that there's no trust, because that's really what it is. There's no trust. So and when you get into a situation where there's no trust, it starts to it always does. This is why the entire point of the subversion, like I want to say it was like 2013, Soros started buying up, like, and creating all these Media Matters and the Daily Kos and all of these ridiculous media sites who were specifically designed to create like fires and create misinformation and just really stir things up. And they did that. And in the end, they succeeded. We're at a point today where no one trusts anyone, and we really need to start realizing that the fight is not with each other. The fight is with them. The fight is with the Bidens and Trudeaus and the Mitch McConnells and the whatever Zelensky's. Like, this is who the fight is with. These are the people who are onboarding all this elitist crap. That's who the Klaus Schwabs and the Larry Finks, right? These are the people who are causing us harm. These are the people who don't like us. These are the people who are planning a world where we have no say. They're planning a world where they can control our speech, they can control what we buy, they can control how much we can make. You name it, and they want to control it, right? And convention estates is the way to do it. Convention estates is the way to start to change that power structure, at least in the United States. Because if they don't have the United States, they don't get anything. They don't get anything. If they can't get the United States, they get nowhere. They could theoretically, if they volunteer, right? If European countries volunteer to join onto the psychosis, they can. But without the U.S. being on board, as a matter of fact, with the U.S. being against it, they're done. They absolutely need us. Because they're never going to get China or Russia or India. They're never going to get those countries. It's really just going to become a European thing, and that's not going to live for long. So it's imperative that we take a stand. We change this relationship with our government. Article 5 is the way to do it. So you can go to my website right there where you're about to buy a t-shirt. There's a link right underneath, right on the front page. That's a big link right in the middle to go sign the petition. And that's where you go meet like-minded people, right? You sign that petition, you click volunteer. Someone right near you is going to call you. There are district captains all over the United States, multiple per state, because it's one per district. Maybe there's a vacancy there. Maybe you can help with that, right? Maybe you got some leadership skills. Maybe you do video editing. Maybe you can help with that. Maybe you're a really good writer, and you can help get everybody to write better letters to their district representatives. There's a ton of different ways that people can help, right? Or maybe you have no time at all, but you got lots of money. They'll kick over something. They can always, there's flights to everywhere. It's not, stuff's expensive. These guys are flying. I see Mark Meckler and companies showing up at all of these different, states. Sometimes there's 3, 4 in a matter of 4 days, and it's like boom, 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 boom. Right? Everything helps. There's always a way to help. If you have no money, maybe there's something you could do. Here's the thing: 15 minutes, folks. Right? You put in. Imagine right now that 50, 60, 70 million people were putting in 15 minutes a week, let's say. How many minutes is that, right? That's a lot of minutes. That's a lot of minutes. Ruben over on Rumble. What's up, my man? I'm getting ready to slip out of here. So you caught me right at the end of the rope. But So local districts need donations too. Printing room rentals, etc. Yeah, there's so much that goes into this, folks. That there, maybe you own a place that rents rooms, right? You could just, when there's a spare room, let one of the local units, the districts use it. Like maybe that's a way, right? Or maybe you own a printing company and you can help out with some discounted printing or free printing or something, right? Just sign the petition, talk to your local district captain, and if there is none, or if they're in transition or something like that, then that may be your calling, right? But either way, someone's going to reach out to you. If it ain't the district captain, it's going to be, the state director or whatever. Someone up the chain is going to give you a call if you want to volunteer. So the first step, though, is to be counted. The first step is to make yourself heard, because when you sign that petition, all right, when you sign it, it's going to automatically generate a letter to your local representative letting them know that you're on board. And really, maybe a social media warrior is another great way. You could just, go to places, get on to videos like this or the convention to state videos, or, get on the chats, get into chat boards, start a Facebook group, whatever it may be. There's a million different ways that you can help. And wherever state you live in, your district captain will let you know what it is that they need, what it is that they're doing right now, what's hot right now. Are you in a state that's about to pop? There's 18 of them out there. Is one of them yours? Like, those are things you want to know, right? Those are things you want to know. Yeah, Bob. So I got some district captains actually on here now. Mern is a district captain. Bob Dorbin says, I'll call you back. Timely, yeah. District 6, yes. So there you go, right? Like they're out here telling you, like, we'll get you. I know when I did it, they called me. This was 3 years ago or so. They called me immediately. I actually was shocked that they called me. I didn't even read the part where they say we're going to call you, but boom, they called me, like just like that. And we ended up going. I went to a few different events. We did a letter writing event and things like that. Helped them out with a video for, they were doing a veteran piece for Veterans Day, that they wanted to recruit more veterans to the cause. So yeah, absolutely. All right, folks. So on that note, I believe it is time for me to feather away. So Thursday nights, keep that in mind. It's not going to be Wednesday night anymore. Thursday nights, and then and I think that's it.